At this year's 2024 annual meeting of Jehovah's Witnesses, there was big news. 2 new governing body members were added. The governing body is the de facto leadership of the Worldwide Order of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, during the annual meeting, as they were talking about these 2 new governing body members, something very interesting was said.
And not only that, younger brothers have been appointed on the governing body. Now, I know what you're all thinking. 2 new ones, how old are they? We know. You're not Googling now, but you will be. But you see, we need to be careful about what we're thinking with regard to the number of anointed ones left on earth.
Now, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why he said this. Was he just trying to make a joke? Was he really hoping that people wouldn't Google anyone's names? It seemed very odd. Now, I was hyper-focused and trying to finish making a long-form rebuttal to the annual meeting, so I didn't get to it at the time. But about 1 o'clock last night, I was sitting on the toilet and I thought, oh, you know what I never did? I never plugged these guys' name into Google and see what comes up. And so I did. And I found this.
We know. You're not Googling now, but you will be.
And boy howdy, it actually confirms something that I've been talking about for quite some time. So let's talk about it. So, who is Mr. Jody Jelking? Well, let's take a look at what jw.org has to say about him. Brother Jedley began his full-time service in 1989 and Bethel service in 1990. So one would think that he's been in Bethel for quite a bit of time. But the very first result I got on Google was a Zillow profile. And this is the same guy, confirmed by his profile picture. And it says that he was a real estate agent 11, 12, 14 years ago that he had sold property in North Carolina. Now, a little bit interesting that it's in North Carolina, seeing how that's where they shipped Tony Morris off to. Coincidence? Who could really say, but seems like a very strange coincidence, if anything. But under his profile, you see Tierra Bella Realty Incorporated. So I just typed into Google what that was, and this was the page that it took me to. Welcome to Tierra Bella Realty. Tierra Bella Realty is an independent and local-owned real estate firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. We assist clients in buying and selling real estate as well as property management for landlords and investors. We have assisted a large international clientele, including clients from North and South America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Asia. Here at our site, you will find information for buyers, sellers, owner, investors, and tenants. And then under owner investors, it says our business is to provide our clients with management solutions that help their properties operate smoothly, increase in desirability, and enhance investment value. That's why property owners throughout the area depend on us to help achieve their goals of property performance and profitability. Whether your properties are apartments, single-family homes, duplexes, commercial developments, or office spaces for growing companies, our company ensures that your property is well managed to attract and retain tenants. So it sounds like he is quite the expert here in international real estate property holdings, with a special focus maybe on helping investors how to maximize their profits from a very large real estate portfolio. Imagine he has a lot of know-how because he's worked with clients from the Middle East and Asia to North and South America, Europe and Africa. I mean, the only thing he hasn't sold is a bridge in Antarctica, am I right? Now, a little farther down, I saw that he had a LinkedIn profile, and it just was pretty straightforward. It just said that there's his name, owner Tierra Bella Realty Incorporated. And then I did find that there's a little website called Corporation Wiki, and you can see corporations that people are affiliated with. And Jody Jelking happened to be a treasurer of the Daytona Assembly Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses and the director of the Denton, Texas Assembly Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. So now this is getting a little strange. Why is a Bethelite that started his service according to Watchtower in 1990, who is also a real estate agent in North Carolina 10 years ago, who is also the treasurer of a assembly hall in Florida and a director of an assembly hall in Texas, who's also a owner of a international real estate company that specializes in property management and has clients all over the world. All of these things don't really add up on the surface. But I scrolled a little bit farther into the Google results, and I did find one other thing.
Real estate designation. The CCIM stands for Certified Commercial Investment Member. And in order to obtain this designation, one has to complete both a rigorous educational component as well as real-life experience, a portfolio of qualifying experience. All of this put together allows one to become a CCIM and a member of the CCIM Institute. Once one has received the designation or the PIN, then one opens doors to both technology, information, and a network of other CCIMs. And that's important when trying to get deals done. Information and a network of other CCIMs.
And that's important when trying to get deals done.
Putting all of this together helps us get the deals done for the client. Because in the end, we recognize that the client's going to be making an important decision, a large financial decision. And our goal is to make sure that the client makes an informed decision that will help them reach.
Now, the other interesting thing that I saw was I was trying to get a timeline of exactly when was this guy at Bethel, because clearly he hasn't been there since 1990. Looking up his old addresses, I suppose I won't dox him, not that I really care all that much. From reviewing his public records, it appears that in 1990, as Watchtower said, he did join the Bethel family. And this initially started in their Walk Hill facility in 1990 in upstate New York, but then in 1996, he moved to their Brooklyn location. Then in 2002, he had various addresses for a couple years there. I do imagine that this is where he became a director or secretary treasurer of a couple of different kingdom halls or assembly halls down there in Florida. And then in 2005, we see him in Kansas City, Missouri. Only briefly there for 1 year, because then he's back to his roots in 2006, where he has his next registered address, and this is where he founded the Tierra Bella Realty Incorporated Corporation, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there, but he's still apparently active in his involvement with this company, because as you can see here on your screen, Tierra Bella Realty Incorporated is an acting agent for Jody Jedley and Demarius Jedley, because the court date was on 9/11/2024. So this is a current active court case that is going on. So it seems like he is still involved with this Tierra Bella Realty group. So what are we to do with all of this information? It's just kind of a smattering of things all over the place. Well, I want to paint a little bit of a picture for you, and maybe you can understand, because it's something I haven't made a YouTube video about, but in private, I've been talking to people about it because it is where I've always been thinking that the Watchtower will be going. For a couple of years now, when I close my eyes and try and figure out what their business plan is going forward, what are they going to do to become a sustainable corporation, as it were, I thought it was a very obvious answer. And I think I might have been right. So let me explain it to you. Now, to help explain my kooky hypothesis that I've been yapping about for quite some time now, I just want to correlate it to something that hopefully will make a little bit of sense, and that is the National Basketball Association. Seems strange, but just bear with me for a second. So in the 90s, a very good player would make a salary that is paltry in comparison to what NBA players make right now. And the reason that that is the case is they have a profit-sharing league where the players get a percentage of the profits that the NBA teams can generate. Now, the reason that NBA players get paid so much more is that the NBA teams have found out how to make more money. So take, for instance, Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley, between 1990 and 1999, 2000-ish, he made roughly, adjusted for inflation, about $60 million. $60 million. Now, a player in today's league over the same, 9 year span, let's just take Rudy Gobert, for instance. His contract with the Utah Jazz was about $100 million, and the one with the Minnesota Timberwolves was $200 million. So in the same time span, a very good NBA player made $300 million. Now, this is adjusted for inflation. If you don't adjust for inflation, then I think Charles Barkley would have made like $26 million. But anyway, so adjusted for inflation, it's $30 million for his salary and $300 million. There had to be an explosion of revenue that NBA teams were experiencing for you to get such a rapid growth. It is mind-boggling. So I didn't really know exactly why this was until I was listening to a Conan O'Brien podcast of all things, where he was interviewing Mark Cuban, who's a team owner for the Dallas Mavericks. And in there, he said that he really didn't understand exactly how NBA teams were making money until he understood how they could use real estate. And that he said the biggest way that NBA teams make money is by their real estate investments. So I looked into this a little bit and was just trying to figure out what he was on about. And essentially what they do is they build their little stadiums, but they're not occupied, that often out of the year. They're not NBA games 24/7. And so they just kind of sit there and do nothing. But they can have other events go on at the stadium that so will generate a little bit of income, but that's not where the real money is at. The real money came from whenever they were building a new stadium. They were building a whole community around it that the NBA teams also owned. Office buildings, townhouses, restaurants, hotels, all of it was built and is a property that's managed by a subsidiary of that NBA team owner. And that is when they saw an explosion of revenue, because now you don't just have the revenue you're generating from, your local plumber or window washer that's buying beer and overpriced beer and hot dogs. You are having tech companies occupy your office buildings that you built, and they're going to lunch at the restaurants that you built, and you can have a higher leasing price for all of that. So they became these landlords for their little areas that they would build. So hopefully you're kind of sort of seeing exactly where I'm going with this. Now, when you think about Watchtower, what is their biggest asset? And it's not even close. It is their real estate holdings. They have an absurd amount of assets in real estate. Now, they also have this problem with that, and that is optics. See, if they just start selling Kingdom Halls left and right, and they start liquidating those assets, you're only going to get that immediate cash right then and there, but it's going to look bad for you as an organization. Oh, well, why are you guys must be shrinking if you keep selling off Kingdom Halls. So the smarter thing to do is to sell off some, but to hold on to the majority of them, because you can use those assets for collateral for lines of credit. And this is potentially an infinite money glitch that Watchtower, I don't think, has ever truly tapped into. Because if you look at what they probably hold around the world, I'm no expert here, but on the absolute lowest end you could convince me, I would say it's something like $10 billion. That is the lowest you could possibly. Just remember, when they sold their property in Brooklyn alone, they had $2 billion worth of property just in Brooklyn by itself. Now imagine all of the branch offices, all of the assembly halls, all of the Kingdom Halls, all across the globe. It's going to be a much higher number than that, but let's just say something very conservative and just say it's like $10 billion. Well, taking out lines of credit and using that as collateral, and because it is very stable collateral, this is going to be you could sell this as a bond essentially, and this is going to have an extremely low interest rate. an absurdly low interest rate that you have an infinite money glitch if you just have that much in assets. Now, what's Watchtower's second biggest asset that they have? Well, it's not, the garbage man or the plumber or the window washer donating $50 a month to the organization, because, even if you tot all of that up, it's, maybe $100 million or whatever. Their biggest asset is the free labor. Now, what if you combine the two biggest assets that you have, and you can take out lines of credit to fund building projects that you then have more assets, and then you have a new building so you can sell the old one, and now you have a more valuable asset, which you can turn around and do this again and again and again and again. Slowly, as you build a disgusting, obscene real estate portfolio. Now, this, in my humble opinion, is exactly what I've always thought Watchtower, if they got wise, they would realize. That they were sitting on an infinite money glitch, and it has nothing to do with begging for donations or begging for money from refugees. It has nothing to do with selling off kingdom halls. They just needed the right financial advisors to tell them, hey guys, why don't you do this? Because if you do, not only can you make an unbelievable amount by investing in stocks and whatnot, which they already do, but you can also use this as free money for every building project you can possibly imagine. So if you hire the right people, we can give you the money. All you just have to do is provide the people. Now, what did Watchtower remind everyone to do during this last annual meeting?
What can you brothers do to help the young ones on the path to serving Jehovah full-time in Bethel and in theocratic construction? To illustrate the impact that you brothers can have on the lives of these young ones, you can truly make a difference in how these young ones use their lives. And finally, a comment to the current generation who is carrying the load of oversight in Bethel and in theocratic construction. But we thank you for being ready to hand the job to these ones and then help them to succeed. Well, as we've discussed, Jehovah is speeding up the work, and so therefore there is a need for more workers. Jehovah is willing to train you and entrust you, and Jehovah's organization is making arrangements for you to get involved as early as possible.
We need young ones, as verse 15 says, to be sent out to preach the good news. We need young ones to serve as pioneers and special pioneers and missionaries. We need them to apply for the School for Kingdom Evangelizers.
That's right. They need your children. For what? Their building projects. Their international building projects are the most important thing. I'm sorry, I will not be convinced otherwise. Everything I've said here is by design. This has been a plan of Watchtower's probably for a few years now. I guess Mark Sanderson, he became a governing body member in 2012? They did the hostile takeover to where they became the owners of all of these kingdom halls in 2014, 2015, sometime around there. And since then, now we're getting a actual expert in property management and real estate investing, someone that has expertise, and he is on the governing body. They don't have to sublet this out somewhere else. Now, if you think I'm smoking the crack pipe or I'm being a little bit conspiratorial, we have a working example of this exact thing I'm talking about. So let me talk about something that has been quiet recently, but it was a peculiar case of Watchtower buying a big office building that was previously owned by Geico and wanting to build an assembly hall on that property.
But I spent about a half century here on Long Island. In fact, when I think about where I grew up, it was in the middle of the island, the Islip area, and we used to commute to this place right here since the mid-70s. This was the first assembly hall in the world that Jehovah's Witnesses actually owned. And so we're still using this facility. It's on Greenpoint Avenue in Sunnyside, Queens. And our friends from all the way out in Peconic all the way to the Queens line are all commuting into this facility. So you can understand why it's so good for us to be thinking about a place right here. In fact, many of our congregants are very excited about relocating here. When you take a look at our assembly halls across the country, you'll see the types of assembly halls that we build. This is in Puyallup, Washington, Aurora, Colorado, Crownsville Assembly Hall in Crownsville, Maryland. This is more of the modern looking design, the LaFerriere Assembly Hall. And this is Orangeburg, which is very similar to the footprint that will be here. Casa Grande Assembly Hall. And you can see as we look at this is Mira Loma, you can see the very organized way that cars come in. We have traffic as well as attendance. And this is what happens on the inside. 1,838 parking spaces, 6 days per week, 300 days a year. And take a look at, this is a Google image, a historical Google image, pretty accurate, we would say, of what you would see on a typical day here. So a very intense use of the site, a lot of obviously, you see that all of that is paved over, and a lot of traffic in and out of the site over 6 days. When we look at our Assembly Hall project, it's a modest building, very functional, 53,000 square feet. We'll have 2,100 seats and 2 accessory buildings. You'll see them in a moment. Here's the design, the rendering. You can see it's a very pleasant looking facility. It's good for our uses because it has enough space for us. A maintenance building which will accompany it. It's only 3,500 square feet. And then just beyond that, toward the back of the site will be the parsonage where our caretakers will live and provide 24-hour care and security of the facility. So when you look at this is us putting the design, the rendering, right in the current parking lot. And you can see all that pavement and where it sits. You can see that it's all denuded here, all paved over. So this will give you more of a sense of what we're doing. This right here to give you a sense of where we are. Here's the building. Right here is where we're at. So we're looking in this direction. And this is where the site will be divided. So this will be subdivided, 2 parcels. And this will be the Assembly Hall. When you look at just here, you'll see that this is the division between what will become 2 properties. But during construction, the existing building will remain for project administration. The property will then be subdivided into 2 equal parcels. They're about equal. So there's about a 20-acre parcel. The back parcel will be about 10 acres. The front parcel will be about 10 acres. Upon the completion of the Assembly Hall, the current plan anticipates the raising of this building and then the sale of this front parcel. That's an important part of this for the community, we think, because it will assist in getting a portion of this back on the tax rolls. Our Real Estate Tax Council has assessed this, and so you might know we as an organization did not go for an exemption for 2023. We chose instead to pay the taxes. That was really a gesture on the part of the organization because we didn't want you to be left with an unanticipated hole in your budgets. But for 2024, we expect that the entire parcel will come off the tax rolls, be exempt for religious purposes. And then we're hoping that soon thereafter we'll sell the front parcel, which no doubt this is a very valuable piece of land. And this is what our Real Estate and Tax Council says. The impact of an exemption at this property would be 100% mitigated by the development of the property with taxable assessments ultimately equivalent to a fair market value of $20 million. What that basically means is when we sell off the front parcel, this will then go back on the tax rolls. And then if the full value assessment is beyond 20 million, there will be a 0 impact of taking that back parcel off the tax rolls. Now, many of you here are residents, so this is not something that is near and dear to your heart, but it will affect, if you take a look at these areas, food and beverage, retail, lodging. We do have people who will be coming into the area, staying in the area, eating dinner, perhaps picking up breakfast on the way. And our economic impact statement shows a nearly $18 million annual impact on the community. And from a tax standpoint, for Nassau County, between lodging tax revenue and sales tax, about $672,000. New York State, about $480,000 per year.
It's pretty clear that Watchtower is at least thinking about the overall impact that having their assemblies will have on the local community. They even had their budgets made. They even had some estimates done about what sort of revenue would be generated from this, from lodging, from food, people eating and this, that, and the third. Now, when I put on my tinfoil hat here, and I think about what I was saying about the basketball correlation to this and what the NBA teams did, I could fully imagine a situation where why wouldn't you just use your workforce to build a whole area that's zoned for industrial and commercial use? Why not build a little cool, cozy village that meets the kind of vibe there, and you are the property owner, and you can just lease out and have restaurants and hotels or office buildings all surrounding your little assembly hall. I don't know, they say that, we're not going to have any meetings or anything during the week here, but with a more standardized, as he also claimed, a more standardized approach to what was going to be there for those buildings, couldn't you see them just scrapping the Jehovah's Witness Assembly Hall and it just turning into X whatever city assembly hall? It would be a very easy transition for them to let other people use those facilities. They could rent out the facility, and it's maintained by volunteers. And you could tap into some of the profits of that revenue generated from lodging and food and whatnot by also building some more commercial property around it and then leasing it out. It doesn't take someone with a very wild imagination to see this through. Now, their current business model, if that is what they will do, and they will, parcel, section out the land and then sell it off, they still don't really lose anything, right? Oh man, there was this assembly hall over here. It was hard for people to get to, so we decided to sell that one. I'm sure that one in Queens was very valuable, and build this one. And with a net loss of only who knows, maybe $9 million or something, but you also have this asset that is extremely valuable. If they can sell just one section of that for $20 million, you can imagine what they have a brand new facility, plus the maintenance facility, plus the little house there. You imagine that that's probably at least worth another $30 million, plus you have the other 10-acre parcel that you have there. So they are coming out on top no matter how you look at this. Watchtower doesn't lose any money by doing real estate investing. They've actually found a money glitch. Use your real estate portfolio as a way to generate ridiculously low interest lines of credit, and you can just build to the cows come home. And you can sell this off as, we needed an updated facility. And it just so happens that all of their kingdom halls and all of their assembly halls are starting to look a lot more standard. Instead of having these elaborate mosaics and things that only Jehovah's Witnesses would really understand, the old assembly halls I'm talking about that had they had character, they had culture, they had Jehovah's Witness themes, built into the bricks. Now they are probably all going to look very standard and kind of like a megachurch. Now, if you want to take this a little bit farther, which I think they will eventually, but this is slightly farther down the road, I want you to close your eyes and imagine a situation. Let's just say I'm right, and they start building these whole little communities around their assembly hall. Imagine a situation where you have a religion that doesn't make spiritual food anymore, which they just simply don't. What's the point of going to meetings? Meetings feel very redundant, very annoying. What if they just don't really do that anymore? They've already taken steps of, oh, you don't have to report your time. We're going to change up our ministry and really be focused on preaching whenever you're at Trader Joe's looking for some peas and rutabagas. And maybe a little bit less on that door-to-door stuff. They're willing to make these drastic changes to the identity of Jehovah's Witnesses. What if they just said, would you rather go to a meeting once every 3 months? And it's at one of our special assembly halls, and it's almost like going on a mini vacation, or once every 6, whatever the case is. And you just only go to these assembly halls. Well, what would happen to all the kingdom halls then? Well, you could sell them. And then what else could you sell? You could sell the idea for the need for more assembly halls, thus generating more volunteers to help build more of these. Do you see where I'm going with this? They have, in my opinion, a vision of eventually becoming a more online religion that just focuses on making movies and making stuff that people can look up on the internet, and moving away from having their meetings in kingdom halls into just having special conventions. Oh man, we can invite delegates from all over the world, and then you get to go to JW Village, where you have a whole city built around it that there's hotels, and it's all owned by Watchtower. And they essentially take the concept of a mega church and run wild with it. I know you've seen one of these. A mega church pops up and just like it's by magic almost. Pretty soon there's a Starbucks and there's a sushi shop and there's a bar. All of these things just pop up out of nowhere whenever a mega church gets constructed. What is stopping Watchtower from doing that exact same thing? They would make a grotesque amount of money, and they would be able to sell the idea of the new face of Watchtower. They would be able to sell the idea of growth. They would be able to sell the idea that the organization is moving. You don't have to sell kingdom halls in order to get this idea in motion initially. You can do this but how would you do this? Well, you'd first need to get an expert in asset management and probably need to set up some companies offshore that you could route some of your money through. Now, Watchtower has corporations set up with trustees and directors and treasurers that are somehow living in Bethel, but they're the signed directors all over the country of all these assembly halls. But they have more corporations than you could ever care to even understand. You could do some serious money laundering to this asset management company that you set up offshore. And it just so happens very recently, Watchtower did this. They set up asset management companies in none other than Ireland. And now, on the governing body, so they can play this out, this little fantasy, this idea, they can play it really close to the chest. On the governing body, they have an expert in international real estate investing. I gotta be honest with you. This is an actual smart move by Watchtower. This is the genius solution to solving the problem of, well, how do we sell growth and how do we make money? This is it. This is absolutely it. This is the easiest way to get it done. Now, hopefully, if anyone wants to back me up on this, because I've been talking about this and maybe you guys won't believe me, but if you're one of my friends that I've talked your ear off about how I think Watchtower is going to do this, can you just comment down below, please? And I'll pin it so that way people know I'm not 100% crazy. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this. I think it's really fascinating. To me, it's very obvious, but again, maybe I just drink a little bit too much coffee and stare into these bright lights too much. But we'll see how it all goes, and I guess only time will tell. But hey, I really enjoy trying to dig in and look at what Watchtower isn't saying, because what they say is kind of boring, and look at what's really going on when you dig into it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this as well. I know I promised I would have the annual meeting, the truncated version of that out today, but I'm just going to do that tomorrow because I was excited to make this one. With all of that stuff being said, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to show yourself the same kindness as you show to others. And you better have a good-ass day.